We've spent the night on our narrowboat on the moorings outside the old Waterways office just east of Stalybridge on the Huddersfield Narrow Canal. Today we're going to be leaving this canal and joining the Ashton Canal as we head towards Duckenfield Junction. We only stopped here yesterday because we ran out of light and energy, but it turned out to be a perfect and very peaceful mooring. First on the agenda today is Staley Lock, which Michael's already set for us whilst he was waiting for me to emerge from the boat. Below the lock, the sides of the canal are lined with huge steel sheet piles. This is because this section of canal is fairly new. At some point after the canal closed in the 1960s, a substation was built over the original line of the canal. So when it was proposed that the canal could reopen, a slightly different route had to be used. So this part of the canal is only about 25 years old. The new route has to narrow considerably ahead to pass under this electricity pylon that straddles the canal and towpath. You get quite a unique view if you remember to look up as you pass.
Good morning. We left early this morning. Forgotten the name of the place that we were moored in. I think it was Grove Road. There's some boater services there. And today we're continuing towards Manchester. We need to get diesel, so we're going to stop at Portland Basin and hopefully get some there. There's 8 locks to go. 8 locks to go before we get there. And we might stop in Stalybridge to go to the Aldi. Yeah, I'm not sure where we're going to moor tonight. Maybe Ashton, maybe at the top of the Ashton flight. But yeah, that's our plan.
We've now passed the substation and are rejoining the original line of the canal. To the northwest of the canal are some industrial buildings, and to the southeast is a slope that leads down to the outskirts of the town of Stalybridge. The Huddersfield Narrow Canal is only about 20 miles long, but it has a whopping 74 locks on it, which means that most of the locks are fairly close together. Unusually, this pound is quite a long one at just over 2 miles, and if you're wondering where Michael is, he's decided to walk it. The canal has roughly followed the route of the River Tame all the way from Upper Mill, and here we're right next to the river. In fact, if you look north, you can see a bridge with yellow railings that crosses the river. We then pass under this lovely old brick bridge. Michael's been walking much faster than the boat, so he already has the lock gates open. Just before the lock, the canal widens at Knoll Street Winding Hole. Does anyone else find it far easier to line up for a narrow lock that's on a bend, rather than when the approach is in a very straight line? This is lock 7W, and we're pretty much in the centre of the town now. Cotton mills powered by the river were constructed here in 1776, making Stalybridge one of the first textile manufacturing centres. By 1803 there were 8 cotton mills in the town, containing some 76,000 spindles. The Huddersfield Narrow Canal was completed and opened in 1811, providing a really important transportation link for the mills. This lock was actually filled in after the canal closed in the 1960s. When it was restored for the canal's reopening in 2001, it had to be relocated slightly. You can see that the stone at the lower end of the lock is original, but at the head of the lock the walls are made from poured concrete. This tunnel takes the canal under Mottram Road, and it's another structure that had to be built for the reopening of the canal. And you can see the date of its construction as we take the boat into the tunnel. Huge precast concrete tunnels were craned into place to create a culvert under the road. In Stalybridge, much of the canal had been infilled, so it had to be rebuilt all the way through the town. It does largely follow the original line of the waterway though. Before the canal was restored, this area was occupied by the Delta factory, which made cart aerials and antenna cables. There's a lot of space for visiting boats to moor in Stalybridge, although it's always been very quiet each time we've passed through this way, so it's really nice to see Narrowboat Textile moored here today. This Tesco store was built on the site of the factory at the same time that the canal was restored. Honestly, I think they did a pretty good job with the redevelopment. The canal is really pedestrian friendly, with footpaths on both sides of the canal and lots of bridges crossing the water. Lock 6 had to be completely rebuilt for the reopening, and it was moved from its previous site, which was slightly further up the canal. The large piece of public art that you can see just to the left of the boat is called the Lockgate Sundial. It commemorates the reopening of the canal and was installed in 2008.
So we've made it as far as Stalybridge. I think this is Lock 6 West, which means there's 5 more to do before we get to the junction. I'm just dropping slowly in the lock while Michael surprise runs to Aldi. Bought some apricots 2 days ago and they went out of date in April. Doesn't have a receipt, so hopefully they'll change them. Bit annoying, but yeah, we're on our way to Manchester.
Lock 5 had also been infilled after the canal closed, but it was also surrounded by new development. The Castle Hall Sports Centre was built here, and its car park and the back of the building itself were located directly over the lock. They were demolished in March 2000, allowing for the lock to be restored. Miraculously, much of the lock chamber had survived, however some of its coping stones were missing, and so stones that were recovered from the original lock chambers of Lock 4 and Lock 7 were used to replace these. You can see the original stone walls of the lock now that the water's down. Lock 4 is the last of the Stalybridge locks, and this is another new build. This one also had to be relocated due to construction over the original lock chamber. And because the lock had to be moved, the bridge just below the lock also had to be moved. It's about half a mile to the next lock, and our surroundings are pretty industrial from now on. We pass under Bailey Street Bridge, and this looks like another new bridge, although this one's had some unofficial adornments on the inside walls. This is Peel Street Bridge. This sweeping bend changes the direction of the canal by about 90 degrees, and where the canal narrows ahead is the site of an old lift bridge. At Stakes Aqueduct we cross over the River Tame. The canal is carried in a cast iron trough, while the towpath crosses on an arched stone bridge. The canal is lined with more industrial buildings here. Sometimes the canal can act as a bit of a green shield from its surroundings, but with so many trees being bare at the moment, we very much know we're in a town. The boat that you can see behind us just pulled off the moorings after we passed. It wasn't the best timing for them, as they're now stuck behind us at the lock. It's especially bad timing, as we're probably one of over a very small number of boats that have come through here in the last week. The pan between Lock 3 and Lock 2 is incredibly short, and the help we're getting from the other boaters means that Michael could walk ahead to get the next lock open. The bridge below the lock was widened whilst the canal was closed, so when the canal reopened, the long balance beams had to be replaced with crooked beams. The old derelict mill building is called Wellington Mill, and it looks really overdue for redevelopment. The canal narrows at Whitelands Tunnel. I think the whole of this section, all the way to the lock, was once part of the tunnel, but much of it's now open to the elements. This is another lock with a crooked balance beam, and I'm honestly very happy that Michael is on lock keeping duty, as I remember this lock being quite stubborn and quite back-breaking. So that was our last lock on the Huddersfield Narrow Canal. We've climbed 428 feet through 42 locks on the east side of the canal from Huddersfield to Marsden. We've travelled 3 miles underground through the Stalybridge tunnel and then descended 277 feet down the west side from Diggle to Ashton under Lyne. It's not an easy canal, but it has to be one of our favourites. Before we leave the Huddersfield, we pass under the fascinating Whitelands Bridge. It's a very early example of a skew arch bridge. It was built this way as the road it supports crosses the canal at an angle. The bricks are looking their age. The bridge was built about 230 years ago, when engineers were still perfecting the technique for building skew bridges. You can see that the bricks that make up the sides of the tunnel are laid horizontally, but where the arch starts, the bricks are angled. They're laid in an almost spiral fashion, perpendicular to the front of the bridge. We're now officially on the Ashton Canal, and ahead is Donkey Stone Wharf at Whitelands Basin. When the Ashton Canal was first opened in 1792, it was called the Manchester, Ashton and Oldham Canal, and it was isolated from the rest of the network. From here it runs on one level for about 3 miles to Fairfield Junction, and then it descends through 18 locks into the city of Manchester. There were also branches to Hollingwood and Stockport, but the main line is all that survives fully in water today. This bridge carries the Trans-Pennine Railway line over the canal. The towpath leaves the canal here, and if you're walking you have to go over the top and through the Asda car park, whilst the canal travels right under the supermarket building itself. To the north of the canal is the Cavendish Mill building, which has been converted into modern apartments. Eventually the towpath returns and we're approaching Portland Basin and Duckinfield Junction, where the Peak Forest Canal meets the Ashton Canal. We end up mooring here for the night, and we must have been quite exhausted as we didn't film an outro. So thank you so much for watching our trip from Stalybridge to Ashton. We really appreciate the support, and if you enjoyed the video, please consider hitting the thumbs up button and giving the channel a follow if you don't already.